Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We have some people that are still joining us, so there will be about a minute of kind of logistics here. Before we begin, I want to make sure everybody first understands that they are muted, so if you're multitasking or having sidebar conversations at this point, we will not hear you, even if you forget to mute your phone on your side, so just everybody's aware of that. But to hear us, make sure you do unmute your computer speakers. And then there's going to be some opportunity to interact. One of them is the little hand on the left side. You'll see a little right side of your screen. You'll see a little slide out bar that is collapsed with that little red arrow at the top there. So if you click that arrow, you can increase your screen real estate or slide it back out. And then a couple buttons below that, you'll see a raise hand feature. So there is an opportunity when we get to the interactive Q&A portion of the discussion, which will be in about, 25, 30 minutes, something like that. You'll have the ability to indicate you have a question, and then we can keep some method to the madness, so to speak, since we have quite a few folks on here. There is also a chat dialog box that's that third arrow down on the slide here that you can type your questions into and submit them, and we can address those throughout the presentation. Also, what's happening throughout is there are a few polling questions that are sprinkled in here that basically just help us understand some of the challenges you're having and where you're at with this process, and we'll get into what that process is here shortly. But these questions help us frame the conversation appropriately so it hits home with what you're dealing with. So make sure that you use these tools, and if you have any questions you'd like to have more depth on a little bit later, and you want to click the hand so you can raise it, jot those down because we'll be able to address those thoroughly, either myself or Linda. So my name is Jeff Brose, and I'll serve as the moderator for today. I'm the Vice President of Innovation here at Banyan, and I've been with Banyan since the very beginning. We'll get into some of the technical solutions that we have a little bit later and how they're addressing some of these problems. So I'll be able to chime in a little bit more intelligently later. The bulk of the discussion will be by somebody who's much more credible than I, Linda Rittemeyer, who I will introduce here in just a minute. Our agenda today is to go through some of the challenges with the nursing shortage. I know that this is near and dear to everybody's heart that's on the call. Otherwise, number one, you wouldn't make the time to listen to this, but also just in general, the profile of folks that are on here, you're dealing with this every single day. And unfortunately, there's not an end in sight. So we're going to directly address some of the challenges that are going on in the marketplace. And in some of this, you're going to feel like we're preaching to the choir a little bit. However, there's a lot of background that we'll provide in some of this that you may or may not be aware of. We're going to go through some of the things that have been tried over the last, 100 years, where we're trying to solve this problem with I've got travelers, I've got staffing fluctuations, I've got just temporary staff that are filling positions for seasonal work and so on. We have attacked this problem from most every angle, and we're going to give you a new angle today that may be a little different than what you're used to reading about and hearing about at trade shows. So we'll go through a couple innovative case studies that we've done with some of our customers, some of the challenges they've had, which will resonate with all of you on the phone, and how we've addressed those directly, and not just addressed them, but successfully and substantially addressed them, which is the point here. And then we'll definitely open up the end for Q&A so you can listen to some conversational things where if we've got people on the phone who have expertise in certain areas, we want to hear about it if somebody answers a question and we're not answering it appropriately. Otherwise, we'll definitely address how we've attacked some of these issues as we've done implementations. Hopefully that gave folks a few minutes to join. And next I'd like to introduce Linda Rittemeyer. And Linda began her career at Children's Mercy Hospital as an OR, neonatal intensive care nurse. And she's continued to develop her leadership, her business management, and their other skills inherent to advance to a CNO role within the HCA Health Network. Linda earned her MBA in Healthcare Administration from Marlhurst University in Marlhurst, Oregon, and a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of Kansas. And we don't hold that against her here in Nebraska that she is a Jayhawk and has it on her license plate. But every once in a while I let her hear about it. So without further ado, Linda.
So good afternoon, everybody. And again, thank you so much for your time. I understand, having walked in your shoes, how much it takes to give us 45 minutes of your day. I know your days are crazy and very stressful. So thank you very much. I'm honored that you decided to call in and be part of this webinar. So let's go ahead and jump right into it so we can respect your time. So again, we're going to be talking about nursing shortage. This is no surprise to any of us. If you've been a nurse for any length of time, you know we used to go through ebbs and flows. I've been a nurse for a little bit over 30 years, so I've probably seen 4 or 5 ebb and flows. We have a surplus of nurses, and then we have a lack of nurses, and it kind of goes and comes. This one's a little bit different. They're not seeing a big end to this one at all. They're already projecting out from 6 to 7 years that we're going to need over 1 million nurses to fill the positions that we have. We're setting up a perfect storm right now. We have an aging nursing population. We have decreased availability of our own nurses, a lot of burnout and turnover going on right now. And then we have an aging population also. So here we go, perfect storm. Trying to fill our positions is a struggle at times. I know when in my last position as a CNO, it took me almost 6 months sometimes to find an experienced nurse. Statistically, they're saying 53 to 110 days to recruit an experienced nurse, but I know for me, sometimes it took me up to 6 months.
Our first poll question that we're going to sprinkle in here is just to ask briefly what percentage of your nursing positions are currently open. How big is this problem with our audience? So what's going to happen is you'll get a poll that pops up on your screen. Click it. Go ahead and click your answers, and we'll watch the results here trickle in. This will be open for about a minute or so, maybe not quite. Wow. That is incredible. So I'm just watching these numbers tick up on the screen here, and preliminary results are showing that on average, it looks like, if I just took a kind of a straw man look at this, the bell curve is about right. So about 11 to 15% are about half of you are dealing with a shortage between 11 and 15% of your nurses. So, you know, in an organization that's got a couple hundred nurses, that is no small amount, and takes a lot of work to fill those. So interesting, and thank you for participating on that.
So we're going to talk about why there's a nursing shortage. We all have our ideas of why there's a nursing shortage. We picked 4 of the top reasons for our nursing shortage: the pipeline, young talent, aging population, and of course, as we just spoke about, the turnover, and the burnout. So to let you know, there is good news at the end of this. I know it seems like a lot of doom and gloom. We got the perfect storm coming, but there is a vision. There is a solution at the end. We do have a platform. I promise you we're going to show it to you. It's a vision that's developed for nurses, by nurses. So in the midst of this, there's a solution. So our first one that we picked was the diminishing pipeline. Over 64,000, pretty big number, of qualified, keywords there is qualified applicants, couldn't get into nursing school. The reason why, because of the shortage of faculty and clinical preceptors. So it's not only our bedside nurses that are struggling for us to make sure that we're keeping staffed, it's also our nursing schools. I personally know quite a few people who did their prereqs for nursing school and then were told it's going to take them there's a 2-year wait. In the meantime, they went ahead and picked different majors because they have a family, bills, whatever. They couldn't wait 2 years to not be making some money or something. So that's a sad tale that we really have a problem starting all the way from nursing school. Our second reason for it was retention of our young talent. As you can see, year over year, and I'm not telling anybody anything that they don't know, our first-year nurses are leaving. Turnover actually in 2016 is up to 30% for our first year of nursing, and it's increasing. We're hearing back from our nurses. A lot of my nurses would just say that transition from nursing school to bedside nurse, they did not realize what that all took. The strain of the job, they're saying that if the environment is poor, there's just a lot of reasons. If we're lucky, our nurses get 12 weeks of orientation, but most of them are getting 8 because of our nursing shortage. When they get off of orientation, they're feeling lost, stressed. They don't feel like they can ask a question because they all feel like they should know it already. They did go to nursing school. I speak to a lot of CNOs across the country, and in one of my conversations with the CNO, over the last year, she's hired 120 new grads. If the trend continues, and she's going to lose 30% of those that she hired after their first year, she already knows that she's going to be down another 36 nurses. So what if we could decrease staff overturn? What if we could mentor our baby nurses after orientation without them feeling inadequate or our staff feeling additional stress? So, like I promised, there is a solution that's coming. Our third one is our aging population, nursing population. We call it the silver tsunami, but it's coming. 1.5 million nurses are expected to reach retirement age within the next 15 years. Again, in conversations with some of my CNO peers, one of my CNO friends told me that she had 70 nurses retire last year. So let's just say those nurses had 30 years of experience. Most of them had more. That's over 2,000 years worth of nursing experience. When our nurses retire, then we're trying to replace them. If we're lucky enough to find a nurse with at least 1 year of experience, we just replaced 2,000 years of experience with 70 years, if we were lucky. I just got my magazine yesterday from the American Nurse Today, ANA, and there was an article in there where Rick Cummings, as Chief Nurse Executive in Delaware, was asked what really keeps him up at night, and he said recruitment. His quote was, "We have nurses who have been with us for decades who are retiring. I can't replace the individual. I can replace the individual, but I can't replace all that knowledge and depth of clinical experience." We're all going through it, and it's pretty daunting. Our fourth reason, of course, is our burnout and turnover. If you look, it gets higher and higher every year. So what are we doing what's happening to our nurses? What are they saying? I pulled some, we've all seen the studies, there's tons of statistics out there. I pulled some that I'm just going to share with you. Again, probably nothing that you haven't heard, but I thought they were pretty interesting. So 40% of our nurses are saying that they're dissatisfied with their jobs. More than 43% are on fast track to burnout. 23 said they'd leave their current job within the next year, and this next one's the one that really hurts my heart and really makes me take a pause. 55% would not recommend nursing as a career. To me, that's a number that I'm like, wow. I mean, I've been a nurse for over 30 years. I love being a nurse. For 55% of our nurses to say I wouldn't recommend nursing profession is pretty hard. We've all heard the quote, "We love nursing, but we hate the job." My turnover rate was, depending on where my hospital was, I've been in both urban and rural hospitals and everything, but to look at your directors when they walk into the room and say, "I got another one," it's just really is, it's just something it's hard. It's hard to sleep sometime at night because you see all the stuff that's going on. So what's going on with our nurses? Well, they're juggling a ton of responsibilities. Everything that they're doing throughout the day really isn't always just focused on their patients, which is what they went to nursing school to do, is to take care of patients and each other. So they're juggling a ton of different responsibilities, which is leading to guilt, moral distress, decrease in job satisfaction. So let's say that you have a nurse and she's trying to get through her day, and I had a nurse called, I'm going to call her Amy, to protect the innocent. But, you know, it's the same story for all of us. Nurses start out with a pretty good day. As you go through, they're discharging patients, they're admitting patients, they get a little behind. I don't know how many times, and I'm sure you guys too, that you will have a nurse in your office crying before the end of their shift just because they don't feel adequate because they missed some cares. So missed cares are affecting our nurses, but what's it doing to our patients too? Well, missed cares, 55 to 98% of our nurses are saying they missed at least one care during their shift. We all know that decreases your HCAHPS scores, increases your readmission rates, and really doesn't make our nurses feel very well. But then it helps with our patients. We're saying that some of the sequela for the patients is pneumonia, alteration in comfort, physical mobility. At the end of the day, a missed care really impacts both our nurses and our patients. So what's been tried? Well, I know me personally, we've tried bonuses. I mean, we pay nurses big bonuses. I've looked at some of the statistics, other hospitals. I just read an article yesterday where Tenet is offering $25,000 sign-on bonus. That's a lot of money. Colorado, a system in Colorado is offering $10,000. One in Washington, D.C., $20,000. But here's the problem. Those nurses are going to stay for 2 years, and then they're going to look for the next sign-on bonus. So you're going to pay somebody a big sign-on bonus, and they're going to move on. Work environment, what have we tried in the work environment? Well, I've tried hiring international nurses. Everybody knows we've done recognition programs till the cows come home. And buying pizza, if I had the money of all the pizza I bought from the time I was a director and a CNO, I could probably buy my own Pizza Hut. But we still have high turnover. Travelers, we used to use travelers as a Band-Aid, but now they're just around. They're there all the time. We're paying for housing. Our vacancy rates are better because we have travelers, but what's the cost? And I don't know about you, I've heard my nurses say they're renters, not owners. And then educational partnerships. At one of my hospitals, we had a DEU program. It was very successful. It was really good. It was a great partnership with the college, but there's still preceptor burnout, the scarcity of the clinical site, and an overburden sometimes of the staff who are taking another nursing student. And as we talked about, the instructors are decreased too.
So poll question number 2 is, have you considered any alternate staffing models? And there are a couple of, it's just a yes/no question, but we're interesting to hear if you guys are struggling with these things. It looks like, you know, if you're 10 to 15% short or open positions or short on nurses, what are you doing about it? And we're assuming that, yeah, 89% have considered some of that, which is pretty much expected in that question. Wow.
So alternate staffing model, I promise it's still coming. We're going to show you our platform. We do have it coming. So doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I had to throw this in there because I can't tell you how many times my nurses say this, and I've said it on a day-to-day basis. So it is crazy. So, but there is something else out there, and something we saw that a lot of you are open or have tried different models. So the ability to do something is great. Again, I received, and here's another thing that I thought was totally insane. Again, I received my American Nurse magazine yesterday, and as I was reading through it, there's actually an article showing nurses how to gracefully leave their job. I thought that was a little insane too. Just my 2 cents worth, I had to throw it in there.
So there's last polling question here, and is what percentage does your RN spend on non-value or administrative tasks, in your opinion, or in your empirical measurement, depending on your organization? This is something that costs a lot, right? When you have these folks doing non-top of license, quote unquote, duties and responsibilities. So go ahead and vote there. We'll give you 20 seconds or here. Again, that bell-shaped curve is pretty amazing. So about 45% of you have responded 16 to 25%, and about 45% of you between 26 and 35%. So let's just say a third. Let's go right in the middle and say that about a third or so, between a quarter and a third of their time is spent doing things that are non-value patient care related anyway. Wow.
So, which goes right to what our slide says here is 36% non-value added work is added. But here's the thing that's amazing, and I did not know this until we did the research: over $700,000 in non-value added per year per med surge unit. Wow, that is a daunting number. Money that can be saved just by not doing non-value added work. Amazing, totally amazing. For me, I used to call it scavenger hunt. My nurses were on a scavenger hunt for everything. They were hunting for reports. They were fixing equipment, waiting for orders, always doing something to be on a scavenger hunt instead of being at the bedside, which is where they wanted to be, taking care of their patients.
So we had to take a little bit different approach here, and Carol Boston Flushauer is the CNO of the advisory board. For those of you who don't know who she is, and she came up with a great quote that we've seen over and over on all kinds of different articles. Disruptive innovation in nursing will happen with or without us, and the way I would phrase it is, it will happen with us or to us. And it's really something to think about, because we haven't changed the way, really, that we've delivered nursing care for a long time. You know, Florence Nightingale had the ward. We got away from that, so we gave patients private or at least semi-private rooms. But the care process in general and the amount of task that is added to these folks, your folks, is daunting, and it's error-prone. And it's a little bit unsafe when you get right down to it, especially when you couple that with the shortage of staff that we have. So we thought a little bit differently. We did not create a widget for you. We didn't create something that we sell to you to make a profit and we walk away from you. What we've created here is a different model of care delivery, one that attacks the nursing shortage head on. It also takes advantage of that 2,000-year type of experience by allowing those nurses to be utilized in a little bit different way. And what we've put together is an introductory video for you. It's about 1 minute and 40 seconds long that I think will explain to you the overall solution. And then we will talk about a couple of case studies and open it up to questions here shortly. playing it through there. But the solution was intended to utilize your people a little bit differently, and technology coupled with those people to deliver care in a much more not only cost-effective way, but a much safer and higher quality way. So to tie this off, Linda can explain these next couple of slides here.
So hopefully you remember the one slide where our nurses are juggling everything that they need to do. And after watching our video, to see that there is actually an opportunity for synergy for your nurses to deliver seamless, coordinated care, and everyone working in concert together so that they can focus on the quality outcomes of the patient. We really think that these are opportunities to help your staff, your hospital, and help you sleep at night. So we're going to look at some case studies.
Up in northern Michigan, Jennifer Woods had an issue where they live in sort of a resort area. It's the very, very top of Michigan, the UP, and absolutely phenomenally gorgeous there for like 3 months, and then it gets really cold. That's what I joke with her about. But they were having issues with ebbs and flows of staff. So they had seasonal challenges is what I would call it, where they have this huge influx of patients, and of course the population is a little bit older, lots of retirees and so on, and their families. They'll come up there in the about this month, and then they will head out sometime around August. And she is part of a large health system called McLaren, but had interesting challenges that needed to be addressed in a creative way. So Linda will talk through some of the results that she's seen and what she did with her, what she did with her approach.
So Jennifer is one of our newer partners, but she's seen some great results. She's already starting on her second unit to go live here, I believe, within the next 2 weeks. Jennifer went with an RN, a tech, and a virtual nurse model. Her nurses really like what they're doing now. They feel like they're really touching their patients more often. I was just up there probably about a month or so ago, and it's going very well. The one thing that's kind of funny when I look at Jennifer, she was at our CNO summit and shared her experiences. One of her quotes is, "We can't keep doing what we're doing and getting different results." I think that was the same quote from Insanity. So Jennifer's really had some great results, and like I said, her model, she went with the RN tech and virtual nurse model.
And Robin down in Florida had a little bit different challenges. She's part of Florida Hospital / Adventist Health System, where they were running into some more location-based issues, and Linda can elaborate on what those were.
So Robin is in a rural area of Florida, and she was losing her nurses to Orlando. They didn't want to stay in the rural area. She was using over 100 travelers. So her opportunity was, how did she get her staff stabilized, not using so many travelers? I was just down there last week, and their project is going amazingly well. What great leadership and what great nurses there. Robin went with an RN, LPN, tech, virtual nurse model, and they are actually, each team is taking up to 12 patients, and it's been very successful. And they're on 2 different units and looking to grow from there.
One of our more mature implementations that we have some more statistics on is out at St. Anthony's Hospital, or Centura Health in Denver, Colorado. Now, they have very interesting challenges out there with their nursing population and just their provider population. Tremendous shortages in nursing. At one point, I think there was 25,000 short or something in the state of Colorado just of nurses. And so they were opening an innovation unit to try and do things a little bit differently to combat these problems. And we were able to be a part of that with our technology and professional services and consultation. And I'll tell you, this is what we're repeating, and we're seeing repeat over and over again with this new care model kind of centered around staff, a new care team with technology, and the savings and the quality, the patient comments and so on are amazing. So Linda can touch on some of those.
So Linda went even a little further outside of the box, and her model is RN, EMTs, a tech, and a virtual nurse, and that constitutes one of their teams. As Jeff said, that she was really fighting a lot of open positions, large turnover rate, and that type of thing. Her latest statistics on her innovation unit is her turnover rate is below 6.5%. There's probably not one of us on this call, me included, who wouldn't have taken that number any day of the week. Her average length of her patients went from 3.41 down to 2.98, and her communication with nurses went from 68.8 up to 82.9, and all of these statistics, everything that she's seeing now is only getting better. She's getting better and better results. They are actually also growing into another unit, so I believe they're up to 3 units now. So she really sees the value in the technology and the support that she's giving her nurses.
So having that virtual quarterback in her, which is I'll call that experienced virtual nurse as a part of that care team, was vital because this patient unit that she started with was more of I would have called it a step down unit. It was I think over half the patients on the floor were on 20+ medications, and I think over half the patients on the floor were also in isolation. So having the ability to deliver expert care and not having to gown and glove up every single time you go into a room and all of that stuff was really a benefit for her in that location. So and the last thing I would point out to her that I just remembered was that the likelihood to recommend that HCAP, it was at 100% for 2 consecutive quarters. 100%. That's amazing.
Which I've never seen an HCAP score of 100% on would recommend. So I'm kind of floored by that number too. I'd like to have her numbers.
So what we've done is we're going to send you a recording and some links at the completion of this discussion that we're about to start here with the Q&A portion. But just before we get into that, we have a calculator on there that helps you determine and predict your ROI. And I'm going to tell you that these are not soft, fluffy ROIs. These are pure, hard ROI. So don't think that as you plug in your information here, that you're getting back some fluffy calculation. We will work with you to show you what you can achieve, and our goal, and we've been successful to this point through 5 or 6 implementations now, you don't come out of pocket. So you're paying this money already. You're going to spend it differently. You're going to redesign your care team a little bit, and then you're going to watch your quality go up and your costs go down. And it is literally that easy. Does it take leadership? Yes. Does it take a lot of learning throughout? Yes, but we're there with you to help you do that. So just understand that it's a journey. It's not a product that you install. It's a commitment, but the commitment coming out the other side is so worth it after you see some of the things you can achieve. So appreciate that. And Linda, introduce.
So our next piece is our Q&A. So if, as Jeff had said in the beginning, if you have a question, please raise your hand, or if you'd like to send us one, please send us something.
And we've got a couple of upcoming events. I think Anthony's going to go ahead and make some changes on the settings here for us. But we've got some upcoming events coming up. We have a fall prevention webinar. For some of you may have been on our last one, but we have another one of those coming up May 22nd. And then an innovation summit that's happening out in Denver. That is co-sponsored with BANYAN and the advisory board. And Carol will be there speaking. And I can tell you that if you can make it, you will not be disappointed. And I don't want you to think that, oh yeah, great, it's a big sales pitch. It's not. Carol is phenomenal. And she will go statistically into things that hit you near and dear to your heart. So if you can make that trip, and there are CEU credits available, try to do that, because I can't recommend it enough. Looks like we've got a question. Looks like Laura has raised her hand. So Anthony has unmuted you, Laura. Do you have a question? Laura Lowe. Sorry, I should have been more specific. There's a lot of you on here. You may still be muted, Laura. There is a control up underneath of that red slidey arrow that you may have your phone muted still. And if not, we can jump into some that have been okay, Laura, if you get your audio unmuted there, then just holler and we'll answer your question. In the meantime, there's a few that have come in through the chat. Looks like one of them is yours, so we'll hit that. Are the virtual nurses my employees or your employees?
So it can be any combination. They can be yours, ours, or a combination of both. So we're flexible in however you want to do that. When I talked about nurses retiring, a couple of our partners have taken those nurses and who have decided maybe not to retire because of the opportunity to be the virtual nurse. It's less stress on their body, but you get to keep all that knowledge. So it's a perfect fit. But we also have the opportunity to help supplement some of that nursing for you.
One thing I would add to that, and maybe you could touch on this, is the ability to use your light duty staff as well. I think that's been a challenge. You mentioned that in your past. So if you want to touch on maybe how they could do the same type of thing.
So yes, so once you do the training on the virtual nurse, you know, anybody who has that experience is able to sit in that seat. And as you saw on the video for the platform, you know, they're sitting there and really quarterbacking everything. So there's really no limit to what that would look like. It's as far as we could take it and whatever that discussion is. But just to know that we can always help and bring you to some great solutions for your site.
Another question that's been through the chat window here. What are the cost savings from? And how do you pay if you have to pay for the Banyan solution? Where do those come from? And I'll just answer that by saying that as you look at the costs that you're spending on fully staffing your environment through either travelers or temporary staff of any kind, as we mix the care team up, and you heard Linda mention a couple of times the different models that some of our partners have had, where she mentioned in one they had RN, LPN, aide, and then virtual nurse. You'll hear just inherently in there that the skill mix is changing. You're not so dependent upon having so many RNs. And candidly, you guys, that's the only way we're fixing this problem. We cannot afford to have RNs become more of a dependency. We don't have them. We can't keep them, and they're not coming out of school fast enough. So we have to address this problem head on. And that's one way that we do it, is we change that skill mix of your staff to what your market will allow you to do. And there is hard cost savings in that pay for the system. So that, hopefully that answers that question. There's another one that, where are the virtual nurses located, on site or out of state?
So if they're your nurses, all of our partners have moved their virtual nurse stations off their unit only because it's too easy to pull those nurses back into that staffing mix, which isn't what you want to do for success. So all of them have their virtual nurse stations someplace either in their building or maybe in an MOB across the street or something like that. If there are nurses, right now they're in Omaha. So our nurses, we have our own virtual stations here, and the nurses are here in Omaha.
Great. Just looking down the list here, there's a couple more that have to do with the challenges and implementation. So what were the two biggest challenges to implement virtual nurses? And I'll speak and then let you piggyback on whatever you want to add. I feel that selecting the right nurses for that role is vital. That's step number one, without a doubt. Like, you just don't take any nurse that's applying into that role. They have to have certain criteria about them that make them good at that position. The second thing that I would add is the leadership. This is not something you're interested in. This is something you're committed to. And by committed, I mean every day, all day, 24 hours, you are committed to getting this program off the ground as a leader. It does not take very long to do that. I think within 5 to 7 days of this workflow, those nurses are comfortable and they're really humming along. But that change process and the leadership involved in that is just vital. Would you agree?
I would agree. So we do a lot of work on the front end to help you be successful on the back end. So when Jeff says 5 to 7 days, the work that we work with you before you go live is where your success is. So I really think that, just remember, as Jeff said, we're not fly by night. We're partners with you, and we're there with you as long as you're walking through this. And as you continue to grow, you're still our partners through the life of being with Banyan.
Yeah, it's definitely not a short-term thing. And then there was another question in here about the technology, or it's actually kind of like workflow and technology. Do the nurses document in the EMR? Absolutely. So technically, I'll take that and then turn the clinical answer over to Linda. The best way to say how the technology works is everything that you need is in a single pane of glass. Okay, so you've got your EMR, educational materials, diagrams, work instructions, checklists. You can plug all of that into the technology, and you're able to interact and use all of it just like you can on your hospital PC. The difference is you can share it with anybody, anywhere. Now, in this case, we're talking about nursing sharing content with patients. But just to broaden your thinking a little bit, there are a lot of people touching that patient that aren't nurses. When you start taking that 1 degree outside of nursing and you start looking at ancillary services, pharmacy, case management, social work, dietary, remember, if you have the technology in the room, more than just nursing can use it. So yes, you have all of your systems and you can use them like you do today.
So just to point out to what Jeff said too, so one of our partners in California actually is focused on their case management and their social workers and their pharmacy. So that's how they're utilizing it. That's why I said before, there's no, we're inside the box and we do it this way. There's a lot to it. The other point that I want to make is our system is agnostic with your EMR. So it's not like your nurses have to learn a new system. It doesn't matter what you use, it'll work with our system.
Yeah, we plug it in. I know you guys have heard that before and you've been burned on that, but I'm telling you, we don't take data out of your system. We literally present your application directly within the technology. So it's there's no learning curve in terms of technology there. Yeah. Looks like do you offer training and implementation services? And absolutely, you heard Linda mention the pre-work that's done and the analysis and let's call it value proposition building. You're basically trying to figure out highest and best use of your people, highest and best use of the process, and so on. But in addition to that, yes, you're trained extensively and you're handheld through the whole implementation. And we do not leave until you are comfortable. If you are not comfortable, you won't use it. If you don't use it, you lose the benefit, and that doesn't work for anybody. So we're there with you throughout that entire implementation. Anything to add to that from a change management perspective?
I would also say if you would like the opportunity for us to help talk to your staff about change management, teamwork, and those types of things, that's always available to with our consulting services. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but it's something that at the end of the day we want to make sure that you guys are successful. It's not, as Jeff said, we're not just here for a short time.
Last question is that I see so far here is, will the presentation be sent to us so we can share with CEOs? Answer is absolutely yes. We're going to be sending you that, and this is not an easy thing. The video speaks volumes. Okay, so just use the video. It's not an easy thing to explain because, initially we hear sometimes that, oh yeah, we've tried team nursing before. This isn't the rudimentary team nursing that you've tried in, you know, the 80s that we got rid of, so to speak. This is different. It's designed differently. The technology enables different workflow, which makes it a little more beneficial than your standard team nursing model. And the ROI there is substantially different. So I will say, absolutely pique their interest. We're happy to help, obviously, explain anything or answer any questions that anybody has.
So we're going to tie this up in respect of your time. As you see, my email address is there, so please do not hesitate to email me any of your questions. I will contact you. We can have a phone conversation. I can come visit you. Whatever you need for us to be able to answer your question. So just save that and email me. Thank you for hanging out with us, listening to what we had to say. Just know that the first time I saw this, I was a CNO, and the first time I saw this, I said, why not? And here I am with BANYAN, just because I think it's that amazing. And the change that I've seen in the hospitals that we work for are great.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Linda, for the great presentation. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we hope to cross paths again soon. Have a great day.